UCL orientation would talk about this being a proximal side, or the side that sits on your humerus, versus the distal side, or the side that sits on your forearm. Turns out that there are muscles which are perfectly positioned, which overlay each of those segments of your UCL. This is kind of a pictorial representation of a cadaver. If we looked at the proximal side, kind of funky because this would be an elbow that you were looking at in a cadaver lab. The green representation is your UCL, and it would give you an idea that there are really only two muscles that are optimally positioned to protect your UCL from torque there. One's called your flexor digitorum superficialis, the other one's called the carpi ulnaris. If we look at on the distal side, turns out there's only one muscle, the flexor digitorum profundus, which is perfectly positioned over the bottom part of your UCL. So the question is, if those are the three muscles, is there a way to train those, and how do you do it effectively to increase the overall joint capacity's ability to withstand torque? The medical community is really clear. I mean, you talk about big names, so we've got 4 quotes here. One's from Dr. Andrews, one's from Dr. Jobe, who actually invented the Tommy John surgery. The other is from Dr. Chris Ahmad, who's the head physician for the Yankees, and the other one comes out of the University of Alabama. They're really clear. Each one is basically saying the same thing. If you want to increase the overall joints capacity to withstand torque, you need to focus on these 3 muscles. Without going into great detail, this kind of gives you a more, I would say, itemized version of what's happening to each muscle in your forearm. But the point of the 3 that we want to most focus on is the fact that these 3 muscles, the reason they become so critical is because each one of those is optimally positioned to protect the UCL. In fact, 2 of them actually even have attachments to the UCL itself. So we know if we can increase their strength, we can offload the amount of torque that's being placed on the UCL. So with that, I'll hand it back to Adam, and he'll talk just a little bit about the way that our device, FlexPro Grip, can actually address some of these issues.
All right. So he obviously covered the problem, why it happens, and started to introduce how we prevent it. So now enter us. I said we came into this, we want to develop a product to actually help solve the problem. So that's FlexPro Grip. That's our glove. A lot of you have seen it over at our booth. So he said there are 3 muscles that we can train, or if we can train them, they'll help take the blunt of the load. So those muscles, as he said, flexor digitorum profundus, flexor digitorum superficialis, and flexor carpi ulnaris. If we can target those muscles specifically, I am going to read this word for word because this is really what we were founded on. By enabling users to target and strengthen the precise muscles best positioned to reduce the torque, that's your flexor digitorum profundus, flexor carpi ulnaris, and flexor digitorum superficialis, placed on the UCL and increase the torque capacity of the elbow. So if those muscles can bear more of the load for us, the UCL can stay healthier longer. So what we do, rather than just offer a glove or another device that all of you can see from every booth, we wanted to offer a solution. So with that solution, beyond just the glove, beyond just the bands, what you get is a training protocol designed specifically for you or for each player in your program. So what that looks like, your players unbox the glove, they're instructed how to connect the bands, which band specifically to use, and from there, you get a link to the website that's going to tell you what reps you should, or based on the reps you get on each of your muscles, based on your finger flexion, what specific workouts you should do, how many reps you should be getting with each band on each finger, depending on whether you need to prevent injury, whether you need to come back from injury, whether you need to improve your command, improve your spin, or improve your efficiency. So that covers our baseline test. Now to get a little more in that custom training. Obviously, we want to collect the data on what everybody's doing, and we want to help prevent injuries the best we can. But for custom training protocols, so in some of the preliminary research that we've done, so now we're even stepping beyond the UCL. Now we're in overall control and now actually helping pitchers improve. I'm sure many of you out there are much like me, or even the exact opposite. I lived my entire life with a ton of two-seam run on everything I threw, which was great when I was on the mound in high school, but that meant every time I threw a fastball, every hitter knew exactly what was coming. The problem was my career didn't last long on the mound. I was an infielder. And as an infielder, you want your ball to go straight across the diamond. Mine didn't. Every first baseman hated it. And I completely understand why. So did every coach. Every coach told me to get on top of the ball, pull down harder. The problem was the harder I pulled down, the harder my ball went to the right. Huge problem. Not until the testing that we've done over the past couple months, for me, I learned that I'm significantly stronger in the flexor digitorum profundus in my pointer finger than I am in my middle finger. So with those 2 points being the last 2 things on the ball before I release, I can push significantly harder with my pointer finger than I can with my middle finger. I thought that was interesting, so that sparked the test. All of a sudden, we have a guy, 6'6" guy with a ton of potential. The problem is everything he throws cuts, so his velocity stopped going up. His spin efficiency was not particularly good because he's throwing a cutter or a slider every single time he tries to throw a fastball. For him, he's significantly stronger in his middle finger than his pointer finger. There we go. That's the problem. So that solves the control issue and the command issue. On top of that, now what happens? What are the muscles, as we said, the last 2 that control ball release? The tip of the fingers. As we fatigue throughout a game, those muscles start to go. I can no longer control exactly how much pressure I'm placing into the ball. As those 2 go, I start missing high. If I overcorrect, try to pull down harder, then I start missing low. So fatigue became the issue. You can now train that. Besides just trying to improve your cardiovascular capabilities or your explosive training, whatever training you want to do, that doesn't help your ability to command those specific muscles that control ball release for longer. So, product. It sucks to say, but we are still in the prototype stage. That's what you guys have seen. Well, this was supposed to be our big launch party, but like any new company, we got hit with a slight delay in production. That being said, production will be complete and we will have our products ready to go by March 31st. We're taking pre-orders now and the official pre-order link will be up on our website by January 15th. So we're happy to talk with anybody about that. And again, in conclusion, y'all have learned today how we at FlexPro Grip have got into this market of the UCL, trying to keep players healthy by preventing tears, keeping players in the game longer by improving their throwing velocity, improving their command, and improving their spin rates and efficiencies. And for those that sadly have already bit the bullet to a UCL injury, help them rehab faster. Thank you guys again. We are FlexPro Grip. Come see us in booth 822. We'd be happy to take any of your questions over there. Thank you all.